guys, and welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it so very much. I am so happy that you are here. Welcome. My name is Aiden. Today is another 4for4 video. As always, I have a link up above of other 4for4 videos that I have done in the past. This was really started so that I actually work through and try out my palettes and decide if I'm going to actually wear them, if they're just like there because I wanted them or they were a good deal, or if like I don't need them and I can pass them along. That is part of the goal. I'm really have been trying to like look at my collection more critically. It's really easy to get way too much stuff, and I have a hoarder tendency as it is, so trying to let some things go that I'm not going to use, or but I want to give them a fair shot too, because that's one thing that I don't always do. The palettes that I am talking about today are all ones that were on my chopping block series that I have done over on my Instagram. So if you have not followed me on Instagram, do consider going over there and following me. I will have a link down below, as always, to my Instagram. And yeah, so let's start. We're going to start. This first one that I have today is the Artistic palette. It is a 9 Artistic Shadows from Makeup Forever. Then I have the Too Faced Love palette. This one, like, do we even remember this palette? It's been a while. I have the Lorac Mega Pro. This is the original one. And then I have the Nubian 2 by Juvia's Place. So all of these made it through the initial cut with their first look, and then I wanted to give them a little bit more love. Before I start, if you haven't watched the 4for4, what I do is I wear each palette for 4 days. I try to create different looks, use as many shadows as possible, and then after that, I come back here, I swatch them, I tell you how they perform, my the things that I noticed as I was wearing them, and then at the end I will rank them, and occasionally I declutter as well. So you'll have to wait and see if I declutter or not. We're going to start with the Too Faced Love palette, just because it's kind of the most interesting of all of the palettes. And it does have, underneath the mirror, there's like little ideas that you can pull out to show you different eye looks. Too Faced is really good about giving inspiration. This one also did come with an eyeliner here, but that has been decluttered a while ago because I don't wear eyeliner. So as you can see, there are 15 shades. They're shaped kind of like envelopes with a seal in the middle of a heart, and there's, you know, like a pinky purpley one, a more green neutral, and then you have like a solid neutral here. I'm going to swatch all of them, and then I'll come back and tell you my thoughts. Before I get to the swatches, I wanted to take this up close so you can hopefully see some of the embossing in here, because they did such a nice job. So there is a TF on each of the hearts, and then the bottom shade and the top shade have like those little hearts. I thought that was so cute and just such a nice little detail. This is what they all look like swatched. So as you're going to see, they are very light in shade. There is nothing, you know, that really, there's a few that stand out more than others, but for the most part, they're pretty light shades. I don't mind this though, because when I put them on, and what I kind of did was I started at the top, and I would do like up here, and then I did like crease, and I used all 5 shades. So one time I kind of mixed and matched, but then the other times I just kind of went around and I used each color in the little envelope or square as one eye look. So, you know, like one shade here, one in the middle, one on the inside, highlighter, and in the crease. I really liked how all of the looks turned out, even though they weren't like what I normally do, or kind of as much as I normally would do. I thought they all looked pretty nice, and as I've been editing some of the videos, I was like, oh, I kind of like the eye look, and I was like, oh, that's this palette as I was wearing it. So even though they don't look that great swatched, I felt like on the eyes they looked really nice, and I think this would be like a palette that I could reach for on a regular basis, on an everyday basis, and know that I have some shadows that are going to perform well and that are going to look nice. So I did like this one. I don't know if I would say like search it out to try to get it or anything, but it was a good palette, and I'm glad that I didn't declutter it when I was like just going through my palettes initially, trying to decide what I liked and what I didn't like, because I would have lost a good palette there. Next, let's talk about the Juvia's Place. This is the Nubian 2. This one, so the the Too Faced one I got at TJ Maxx. This one was sent to me by Patricia. She was decluttering it, and I was like, you know what? I don't really have that many Juvia's Place palettes. Let me try it out. I would really like to try it out. So here it is. It's kind of intimidating. The colors aren't really a lot of colors that I gravitate towards because they are darker shades. They are a little more pigmented, and there's not as many light shimmers. Like if you're looking at this Too Faced one, still like you can see that there's shimmers in there that are pretty light, and that's what I kind of go for on the eyes, especially on the inner portion of my eyes. So this one right off the bat was a little scary, but I'm really glad that Patricia sent it to me because it's been, really interesting to see some of the older Juvia's Place formula and to get to know it. So let me swatch this to give you my opinions on how it performed. All right, there are 12 shades in this palette, and that is what they look like. I will say, I feel like this of all of the palettes performed the most inconsistently. Sometimes they worked really well. Sometimes they didn't work quite as well. The mattes worked okay. Here they look kind of patchy, and I do find that they're a little chunky, like there was quite a bit of fallout as I was trying to swatch them, and I don't know if that's me, if it's the palette, if it's because it's a little older of a palette. It could be that. I don't want to say that this is a bad palette by any means, but it was not one that I had an easy time working with. Like I struggled with creating eye looks, and I struggled like both with the color story, but also with the shadows themselves just a little bit. I had a hard time, like there's this one is a shade that that I feel comfortable wearing and that I felt like looked good. The gold to a certain extent, but there's some other shades in here. And actually, as I was looking at it, this shade right here, Sheba, I don't think either Patricia or I ever touched it because it looked completely unswatched before I went into it today. So this was an okay palette. I had difficulty with it, which I haven't had as much with other Juvia's Place palettes. Now, some of their new mini palettes, I struggled even more than with these. These ones at least are pretty pigmented, but those ones, like, there are some of those that didn't have enough pigment in them. So it was an okay palette. It's not one that I would say you should go out and get. I think there's better palettes from Juvia's Place out there and better color stories too. I'm going to save the Lorac palette for last because it has so many shades that I have to do 2 groups of swatches on it because I can't fit all of them on one arm. So let's talk about Makeup Forever. The packaging on this. Oh my gosh. First, look at this tin. How amazing is that tin? I'm not a big fan of the lip art a lot of the times, but this one is very artistic. It looks like a piece of art. It doesn't look like some weird photo that people are trying to manipulate. Like not manipulate, but I don't know. Sometimes it looks like people have just like CGI'd lipstick shades onto lips, and I don't enjoy that. The biggest problem with this is it's so bulky. Yes, the Love palette is bulky too, but this one does not. Like when you look at the shades that are in here, like if I could pull this out, I'm sure they are very shallow and they probably only take up about this much. This would be a good like pencil holder or something, but it is super bulky as a package. Here is what the shades look like in here. There is a black one here. I don't know if you can even see that. There you go. It blends in very well. So there's some crazy shades in here. There's some really pretty jewel tones. There's some really dark smoky colors in here too. And then there's like this white, but it's not a true white. It's like a shifting shimmer. Let me swatch these all for you so that you can see them. So I want to also say that this is a shadow. This is the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes today. And the other thing I want to say, I'll just show you what colors I'm wearing in a second. These work so much better if you use your finger than if you use a brush. Like, they don't work very well with a brush, which is unfortunate. And maybe you need a sponge tip applicator, which I don't, like, I'm sure I have some somewhere, but they're not something that I have readily available or think about. But it was difficult because when they work the best, when they look the best, they're applied with a finger. But it's hard to be precise when you're trying to create an eye look. So what I have is I have this shade here, which works well, kind of well with a brush. It picks up with a brush anyway. It's what's kind of in my crease and blown up a little bit. Then I have the blue that's on the outer portion of my eye, and I had to put this on with a finger today, so it's not the most precise application by any means. And then I put this shade over it and in the inside, once again with my finger, so it's also not the best application. It's fine. It did its purpose, and this was my last day with this, but I just wanted to show it kind of in action. They look gorgeous when they're swatched. Like, I was swatching, I was like, these look so pretty. Why are they so pretty? And I struggled so much this week with it. Well, they perform really well when they're swatched. The blue would not pick up with a brush. Like, I was really trying to pick up with a brush. It just would not. And they're almost like developing hard pan after just a couple days of using them. I mean, 4 days. Come on. So I don't know what to do with this palette. Like, it's one that there's some pretty colors in there, some colors like this white, it's beautiful, and it kind of shifted and would change the look really well. I like this shade here. This is this one right here. I really like that one as well. The purple looks so much more beautiful wearing, like, swatching it here than it did on my eyes. The green is kind of cool. It's like, it has that green brown shift. I didn't wear this charcoal, but it looks really stunning. So swatching it, I'm like, what? I've been struggling with this. This is the last palette I've used, and I've been struggling with it. And I was like ready to declutter it, and now I'm looking at it and I'm like, what? So yeah, if you have suggestions, because if I pass this along to somebody else, like, I would love to give them suggestions. If I decide to keep it, I would love to have some suggestions. Like, do I just need to invest, like, break down and buy some sponge tip applicators? What would you do? Like, do you have suggestions on how to make it work so that it looks like this instead of what's on my eyes? I would love to know. All right, our last one is the Lorac Mega Pro. Oh my gosh, this is huge. 32 colors. You go from lights to darks across the board. Top 2 rows are mattes. Bottom 2 rows are like a shimmer. They kind of like, they have different, sometimes they perform more like satins than shimmers though. So that's something to keep in mind. There's some really pretty colors in here. There's some colors also that are very cool toned. Even though, like, I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's not a cool tone palette. And then I start looking at the shades and I'm trying to create a look, and I'm like, got lots of cool tones in here. There's some really pretty ones. This deep teal was really pretty. I like these, like, 2 shades up here. Let me swatch it for you so you can see them all in action. Some of them are going to be hard to see with my light skin. All right, we have the matte swatch. So again, these are the top 2 rows of this palette. You can't see that cream. That's this one right here. That's right here. It blends in just very perfectly with my skin. It would be a great, like, foundation or all over setting powder because it's the same color. And then it kind of moves down the line row by row. As you can see, there's some colors that start off really well. The colors might not be accurate, but I just wanted to see that some of them started off and then they kind of fizzled out pretty quickly. They do have very soft mattes. Like, these are very soft and delicate mattes. I wouldn't say, I guess they're a little creamier than ABH, but they're very soft like ABH mattes. So you do have to be careful with them. You do have to build them up. They are pretty nice. I don't dislike their mattes. I don't dislike their formula, but I don't love their formula either. I think it's just kind of a middle of the road formula. Nothing like super special, but nothing, there's not a problem with their quality either. All right, so here are all of the shimmers swatched, and here's what they look like. So there are some very pretty shimmers. I really like this one, Cashmere. That's over here. That's that one that's kind of the most blinding. There's a lot of them that look more satiny than shimmery though. They have like a light sheen to them, but they don't come across as a shimmer on the eye whatsoever. So that's one thing that's pretty unique, I feel, to Lorac. They do more shimmer, or they do more satins than other companies do in their palettes, at least in recent history. So with this palette, what are my thoughts with the shimmers? I like the shimmers, but I like kind of a pop on my eyes, and only a few of those really gave me, like the Cashmere kind of gave me that. Apricot and Blush were okay. The Merlot and the Deep Teal, like they didn't really pop. They didn't look like a shimmer. They looked more satiny on the skin. So there's some pretty in here, but there's a lot that just left me kind of blah. It's not my favorite. Like, if I wasn't looking for a shimmer, which is what I normally want, I want something sparkly, something just a little oomph to my look. That's what I look for when I'm putting on eyeshadows. So I was a little disappointed in this palette just because of the color story. Not a cool toned fan. I prefer warm tones most of the time. If I have like a blue look on, I don't feel comfortable. I don't like how I look in it. So I'm very much more at home in warm tones. And yeah, I didn't love it, unfortunately. All right, on to the rankings and possible declutters. In fourth place, I'm going to put the Makeup Forever. I was never expecting this, like ever, like when I purchased it or anything else. Oh, I forgot to mention, I did get this one at TJ Maxx or Marshall's, one of those two. And yeah, that's how I got this one. And the Lorac I got at Kohl's. I was not expecting to put this one in fourth place, but it just, like, I struggled and I was kind of miserable every time I was trying to make this palette work. But now that I've swatched it, I'm like, do I want to declutter it? So let me know. Should I declutter this one? Should I see if a friend wants it? Are there suggestions that you have that would make it easier for me to work with so that I could take advantage of the beautiful colors that are in here? Please let me know. So this one I was going to declutter it going into this video, but now I'm second guessing myself. So let me know. In third place, I'm going to put the Juvia's Place palette Nubian 2. Just the colors don't call to me. And I didn't feel like this formula was as good as some of the other ones that I have had from Juvia's Place in the past. So this one is going to be a declutter. I might see if a friend that I live close to wants it or not. I know I have a friend who was thinking about like turning these into face paints, different eyeshadows into face paints. So she might be interested in that because I know she likes Juvia's Place. But yeah, it's a declutter for me. It is a disappointment for me. I was not feeling it, even though I'm very grateful to Patricia for sending it to me. It didn't work, unfortunately. In second place, I'm going to put the Lorac Mega Pro, and I think this is a fine palette. The formula is fine. I wish it was, had more shimmers that were like true shimmers. I wish it was not quite so cool toned in nature, like especially swatching it, I was like, wow, there's a lot of cool tones, especially like in the shimmers. There seems to be like a lot of cool tones. Maybe it's just my imagination. I felt overwhelmed trying to find enough shades to kind of make a look, and mixing darks and lights to create a look. I'm going to declutter it. I never expected to declutter any of my Lorac palettes, and I think this is the second one I've decluttered now. Yeah, it's not what I wanted, and unfortunately I feel like somebody else will get much more use out of it and enjoy it more than I will, looking at it and then putting it back every time. Which means in first place is the Too Faced Love palette, which is one that I was planning to declutter until I started using it. I actually used it, like, I haven't used it before I started this journey. I really liked this. I felt like it kind of took the guesswork out of putting together a look. Like, I could mix and match if I wanted to, or I could go around and just create a look with those 5 shades, even less if I wanted to. I was intimidated by the darkest shades on the bottom, but they turned out really nice. I didn't use a ton of them, but I liked it. So this one is a keeper. This is I'm keeping 1 out of 4, which is pretty shocking for me. I have done a full declutter of all palettes, but yeah. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Have you tried any of these palettes? What are your thoughts on these palettes? Would you have decluttered what I decluttered? Would you have kept them? Let me know down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I can't wait to talk to you next time.